Okay, so today I want to talk about serial processing versus parallel processing. Now, this is one of those ideas that maybe isn't real, but I've decided that it is like a mental model that I use to understand the world and the types of, let's say, skills that an individual might be naturally inclined toward or have a, be good at, basically. So I like to think of it in two ways. There are these two types of thinking. Obviously, I'm making a simplification, but these two types of thinking are one, serial processing. Serial processing, serial, the word means, implies one after the other, like a, TV show, serial. That's what Indians call it, serial. Anyways, Serial. And that means that you watch, sorry, I'm still thinking about Indian TV shows. That means that you do one thing at a time, step after step. You process an idea, a problem, whatever, by computing every step along the way. So if someone was telling you to do some type of mathematical operation, if someone was telling you to do some type of um, solve some type of problem, you might begin by breaking it down to little pieces and then solving each one individually and combining it back up. You'd process this idea serially, one at a time. Now, that is a really important and great way of thinking that's very useful in mathematics, in science, in, logic. It's like very, very important in logic. You have to, come up with a way of going from the beginning to the end. Now, so that's serial processing. Now, I want to talk about parallel processing. Parallel processing is more of like this kind of diffuse thinking where you see everything at the same time and you don't have like specific thoughts. You don't go like, this and this and this. You kind of just take it all in at once and then out comes an idea. So that's an input that is simultaneous and an output which is more like spontaneous, intuitive thinking, very much like that. And so I like to think of this as more of like the way of appreciating and understanding art or visual design, graphic design, those types of things. Because the kind of overall sensation that you get, the feeling, that intuition that comes from looking at a piece happens not because of any one item, but the way everything comes together. And so that's parallel processing. And now, historically, me personally, I am absolutely terrible at parallel processing, but like not too bad at serial processing. And so some of the things that this kind of manifests as is like I'm like a pretty bad driver. I can only focus on like one thing at a time, and when I do focus on that thing, I kind of like hyper focus on it. Like I cannot multitask, and I have to take this one thing at a time and everything else. But I have friends who are great drivers, and they just kind of take everything in at the same time, a gentle focus, parallel processing. So I call this soft eyes. That means just like kind of relaxing, letting it all come to you, and having kind of a view of everything at the same time. So this concept I also call soft eyes. So it's like soft eyes versus tunnel vision is almost kind of a negative connotation, even though they are both important, but etc. So I wanted to talk about these two things. And let's see, is there any that's their definitions. Like the implications here are that you need to be able to do both things. And so sometimes when I try to do design, graphic design, art or any type of work like that, I often kind of switch my focus to go from like, this one thing, let me get the margins right, and to evaluate, I just like blur my eyes. I just like blur everything out for a second and go like, oh, and like take it all in. And in that moment, I don't, try to think of anything specific, but I let something come to me about like the changes that I need to make. This is too close, this is too far, this color works, this color doesn't, etc. And that's also very true of cooking, which I think is quite interesting because the actual process of cooking is a serial process. You have to plan, organize, understand, execute, right? You have to come up with all these, sorted order of steps to to do this, like basically create the DAG, the directed acyclic graph, the topographic sort to create an item. Hopefully you understood that part. But the actual tasting of it, the deciding like what needs to happen, that is intuitive. That happens with soft eyes. You take a bite of something and you just think this needs X, Y, Z, lemon zest, vinegar, sugar, whatever the fuck it is, right? You kind of just tasting is a soft eyes or soft tongue process, right? You parallel process all the ideas. So anyways, this is a nonsense and a terrible video, but I'm trying something different this time. I'm trying to like look above the camera and see if that makes a difference. So anyways, this is another wonderful experiment. Thank you so much for being with me on this weird journey. And remember, soft eyes, parallel processing, hard eye, tunnel vision, serial processing. You should be able to do both things, but notice when to do each one. And if you know which one you're good at, you know which one you should work on. I'm good at serial processing, so I'm working on parallel processing. And that involves art and poetry and reading and all this shit. Stuff that I can tell you whether it's good or bad, I can't tell you why. Stuff that requires you to unfocus and perceive everything at once and go from there. Great. Thank you so much. And I hope nobody is watching this because this is nonsense. Okay, bye.